Welcome to Bedtime Myths and Mysteries. Tonight, we drift through the dimly lit corridors of the Victorian home, where grief wore black silk, clocks were stopped, and mirrors were veiled in shadow. The death of a loved one once brought more than tears. It awakened ancient fears. For behind the shrouds and drawn curtains, the Victorians believed that death did not end with a final breath. It lingered, unseen, yet perilously close. And nowhere, they thought, did the boundary between life and the hereafter grow thinner than in the surface of a mirror. Imagine this. A candle flickers in a parlor heavy with mourning. The body of the deceased lies in the next room, dressed in its finest clothes. Family members whisper prayers, the ticking of the clock suspended by trembling hands. The air itself seems still, as though holding its breath. But what truly unsettles the heart is the sight of every mirror in the house, covered in dark fabric. Why? To the Victorians, mirrors were more than decorative. They were thresholds, shiny surfaces where soul and reflection intertwined. And when death entered a home, superstition warned that those mirrors became dangerous, portals through which spirits might pass or become trapped. The roots of this fear stretch deep into history, long before the era of gaslight and mourning jewelry. Across countless cultures, the mirror has been seen as a vessel for the soul. Ancient Greeks believed that a person's reflection was a glimpse of their essence, their psyche. To break a mirror, therefore, was to fracture the soul itself. In Jewish mourning traditions, mirrors are covered to prevent vanity during grief, and to ensure that the departed spirit does not become confused or trapped by its own reflection. But in Victorian England, these ideas merged into something darker, a fusion of folklore, religion, and the haunting beauty of ritual. The moment death claimed a member of the household, the first task was often to draw the blinds and cover every reflective surface, mirrors, glass, even polished metal. It was said that if the spirit of the deceased caught sight of its own reflection, it might become restless, unable to leave the mortal world. Worse still, the mirror might capture the soul of the living, binding them to follow the dead. In those days, mourning was not just an emotion, it was an art form, carefully choreographed and deeply symbolic. The Victorians lived in an age obsessed with death. Epidemics swept through crowded cities, and mortality was an ever-present companion. Queen Victoria herself set the tone when, after the death of Prince Albert, she plunged her entire court into a mourning period that lasted decades. In her grief, the black veil became a national emblem. Homes grew quieter, clothing darker. Even the architecture of mourning houses seemed built to cradle sorrow. And within this world of candlelight and superstition, mirrors became silent witnesses, reflecting what was and what would never be again. Some said that the newly departed lingered in the home for 3 days, hovering between worlds. During that time, the living did all they could to avoid calling the spirit back. Mirrors, in their cold perfection, were thought to attract the dead, to beckon them even. So they were covered not only to protect the soul, but to protect the mourners. Imagine being alone in that house, drapes drawn, the faint scent of lilies in the air, the flowers of mourning. The ticking clock silenced. You pass by a covered mirror, the cloth shifting slightly with a draft. Behind it lies your own reflection, hidden, waiting. What if you lifted that cloth? Would you see only yourself or something else? Some accounts from the period tell of those who did. They claimed to glimpse ghostly faces behind the glass, or pale hands pressing faintly against it. Others believed that the mirror retained the last image of the person who died, frozen within, just out of sight. Spiritualists, who flourished during the late Victorian era, took the superstition even further. To them, the mirror was a gateway. During seances, they believed it could serve as a medium through which spirits might manifest. In dim rooms filled with whispers and candlelight, mirrors were sometimes used intentionally, gazed into by those hoping to see loved ones one last time. But this was risky. The mirror, they warned, might not show only what you sought. It might show something else. Even the great psychologist Sigmund Freud later noted how a reflection could stir deep unease. He called it the uncanny, that eerie doubling of self that hints at mortality. To look into a mirror after death, then, was to confront the ghost that one day waits in us all. In rural folklore, stories abounded of mirrors that refused to clear after death. One tale from Yorkshire told of a grieving widow who forgot to cover her parlour mirror. The next morning, when sunlight struck the glass, the reflection of her late husband was said to appear, standing just behind her shoulder. Another from Ireland warned that if a child looked into a mirror during a wake, the child would be the next to die. So children were kept away, and the house dimmed. Yet not all believed these tales literally. Some saw the covered mirrors as a symbol, a physical reminder that life, for a moment, had lost its reflection. That in grief, the world no longer mirrored joy. The draped fabric was like a shroud over the household's heart. Only when mourning ended would the mirrors be uncovered again, allowing light and laughter to return. Still, the eeriness lingers. Even today, in some rural parts of Europe, you'll find the practice quietly preserved. Curtains drawn, mirrors veiled, candles lit beside the dead. Modern psychology might call it ritualized coping, a way to make sense of loss, to impose order upon the chaos of death. Yet something in the act feels older, more primal. It speaks to a human truth we rarely say aloud, that when death enters a room, it changes everything, even the way light falls upon glass. Look closely at any Victorian photograph of mourning. The heavy fabrics, the stiff postures, the still eyes. Sometimes, if you stare long enough, you'll notice the faint outline of a mirror in the background, swathed in black cloth. A silent participant in the ritual, watching, waiting. It is strange, isn't it, that we trust mirrors so easily, that we greet our reflections each morning without fear, though countless generations whispered of the danger within. Perhaps we've simply grown accustomed to our ghosts, the ones we carry, the ones we avoid. But next time you stand before a mirror at night, with only the dim glow of a lamp behind you, notice how the shadows move. Notice the faint delay between your motion and its reflection. That hesitation, that heartbeat's difference, is where superstition once lived. And in that heartbeat, every soul that has ever feared its reflection might yet be watching. So remember, the Victorians did not cover their mirrors because they were foolish. They did it because they understood something we have long forgotten, that between the seen and the unseen lies only a pane of glass. And perhaps, beneath the cloth, something still waits to be seen. This has been Bedtime Myths and Mysteries. If you've enjoyed this journey through the shadows, remember to like, subscribe, and join us next time, where history and the supernatural meet beneath the flicker of candlelight. Good night, and whatever you do, don't look behind you.
The house is quiet, now it's late. The fire's low, the clock can wait. Your chair still creaks the way it did. I talk to you, I always did. So sleep, my love, it's alright. The stars will keep you through the night. Between this world and where you are, I'll leave the window slightly ajar. I washed the cup you used last week. The handle's warm, it makes me weak. I hum the tune you used to play. It helps the silence go away. So sleep, my love, it's alright. The stars will keep you through the night. Between this world and where you are, I'll leave the window slightly ajar. No angels, no grand goodbye. Just soft wind moving through the sky. If you come by, just stay a while. I'll know it's you by that small smile. The light fades slow, the air feels mild. I close my eyes just for a while. Between the seen and the unseen place, I almost feel your face. Mm-hmm.